people of the world. Today I will be talking about this masterpiece of a novel, no exaggeration, that I'm so glad I picked up. Atonement by Ian McEwan is a fictional novel, but to be precise, a metafiction novel, meaning it brings to the reader's attention to the fact that it is a work of fiction. It's basically like the literary equivalent of, when you have like movies where you have a certain character literally look directly into the camera and address the audience and viewer. That's the basically the literary equivalent of that. And I think this is one of the main features that makes this novel so special. Now, another striking feature of the novel is how the story is told through multiple characters' point of view. I believe this is a very powerful tool, yet challenging to master, at heightening the effect, the dramatic effect, because this way it just feels so much more deeply personal as we live through each character's experience, and yet at the same time, we end up questioning what's real and what's the truth. Now, the novel is divided into three parts. Part one, making up the majority of the novel, begins in the middle of a hot summer's day in 1935 England. It starts with a 13-year-old girl, Bryony Tallis, who right off the bat is established as a would-be author given her passion for writing and creating stories. Bryony is gifted with an incredibly overactive imagination, and her zeal for drama is apparent as she composes a 7-page play for when her brother Leon and her cousins, the twins and Lola, come to visit. And which she is adamant on directing, of course, and playing the main role of. Now, obviously, things don't go according to Bryony's plan, thanks to the unruly twin boys and Lola, their 15-year-old sister, who hijacks Bryony's role in the play using the sympathy card because their parents are going through a potential divorce. And so this then sends Bryony sulking about, and that's when she catches from her window a strange scene of her elder sister Cecilia in a very heated argument with Robbie, their housekeeper's son. Now, she witnesses a series of actions and body language which she doesn't necessarily understand, and so she endows meaning to them that is strictly her and only her interpretation, which leads her to conclude that Robbie is the villain in all of this, obviously completely misreading the situation. Later on, the second misunderstanding that takes place is when Robbie asks Bryony to deliver a letter, or rather a version of a letter that he has written to Cecilia, only to discover too late that he sent the wrong version, or let's say the dirty version, instead of the one that he meant to send. Obviously, Bryony being Bryony, the curious, imaginative one, she reads the letter, she opens the letter and reads it before delivering it, which then adds more certainty to her perception that Robbie is a sex maniac. The third and final misunderstanding that pretty much cements Bryony's theory takes place when she stumbles during the night of the dinner party, when she stumbles upon her sister Cecilia and Robbie together in an awkward position in the library in the dark. She obviously assumes that her sister is being molested against her will and needs protection. Now, during the dinner party that's attended by all of the mentioned characters so far, plus Emily, who is the mother of Bryony, Cecilia, and Leon, and then a friend of Leon's, Paul Marshall, it's come about that the twins have gone missing. And so everybody ventures out to search for them, and while Bryony is out in the darkness with no torch, unlike the adults, she stumbles upon her cousin Lola being sexually assaulted by whom it's impossible to tell. Honestly, impossible. It's completely dark. But her conviction is even more fueled by her cousin's uncertainty, and in her perspective, it could only have been Robbie that was the perpetrator. I mean, after all that she had seen and gathered, it just fits, you know, despite Lola neither denying it nor confirming it. So in the end, the police, they take Bryony's statement as fact, and Robbie is sent to prison. Now, Cecilia cuts off her entire family eventually, as she is the only one who believes in his innocence and knows the truth that he did not commit the crime. Now, part two of the book is a harrowing account of a snippet of the Second World War as experienced by Robbie, who, having served a few years in prison now, has been enlisted in the army. He is kept alive by the hope of meeting the love of his life, Cecilia, again, even though he does become badly injured as he walks to Dunkirk. The final part three, shows us the repentant, grown, matured Bryony who, following in her sister's footsteps, opts to go into nursing. Now, she encounters the severely injured soldiers of the war, and yet every waking moment, she feels guilt for how she has wrongly accused Robbie, and is determined to set things straight by recanting her accusation. Now, she goes to attend from a distance Lola's wedding to, drum roll, Paul Marshall, yes, her rapist, and then she goes off to visit Cecilia. Now, Cecilia and Robbie, they still don't forgive her, but at least they give her instructions on what she should do to at least absolve Robbie's name, since it's now out of the question that the real assailant will be held responsible. The last part of the book, which is the postscript, is the story within a story type of thing. The metafiction part, basically, in full swing. In it, we find out that at 77 years old, Bryony is the accomplished novelist who wrote the novel that we just read, and that this novel has been her mission at Atonement. So theme-wise, we have so many polarities that are very prominent in the novel. So we're just going to touch on the most prominent ones. We have innocent or naive youth versus jaded maturity or old age. We have literature versus science, medicine, war and peace, obviously. But most importantly, perspective versus reality. Now, I saw an IG post the other day that read, "It doesn't matter what you look at, it matters what you see," which to me pretty much sums up the basis of all the misunderstandings that occurred and that have changed the characters' lives. My favorite part of the book, honestly speaking, would have to be Cecilia and Robbie's love and undying loyalty for one another, that just like it gets them through everything. And the takeaway that we can get out of this book is that balance is crucial. Now, while it is healthy to have an active imagination, it doesn't mean that we can't be open to investigating facts. As it turns out, the two can coexist. The same way that we see in Cecilia and Robbie's rooms, books of poetry and Shakespeare side by side with medical books like Gray's Anatomy, which is also evident in the fact that although both of them were actually English majors in college, they decided to pursue medicine, Cecilia as a nurse and Robbie as a doctor. So, all in all, a really, really, really masterful piece of literature, one of the greatest. I'd rate this novel a 5 out of 5. Alright guys, that's it from me. Till next time. Laters.